I never thought my peaceful farmland would turn into the center of a war, but that's exactly what happened. One morning, I received a letter claiming my 3,200 acres had been legally transferred to the local HOA without my knowledge. No warning. No consent. Just, gone. At first, I thought it was some kind of mistake, maybe a scam. But as I dug deeper, I uncovered secrets, lies, and a power grab so massive, it would change everything I thought I knew about my own land. When I confronted the HOA board, I expected shock, maybe confusion, maybe even a simple explanation, but instead, they sat there like kings on their throne, smug and untouchable. The president leaned back, folded his arms, and said, almost mockingly, "You agreed to this, you just didn't read the rules." My stomach dropped. According to them, a series of hidden bylaw amendments had been quietly passed over the last 5 years. These so-called community votes were never announced publicly, never mailed, and never discussed at any meeting I attended. Yet somehow, they claimed I had missed my chance to contest them. The most shocking part? Those amendments supposedly gave the HOA full authority to manage any unincorporated property connected to the community, including my 3,200 acres of farmland. Without my knowledge, they filed documents with the county clerk transferring management rights of my land to the HOA. Then, in a single vote, one I never knew existed, they converted my farmland into community-owned development space, ready to be carved up and sold off to luxury housing developers. I couldn't believe it. There were no emails, no certified letters, no signatures from me, yet they claimed it was all perfectly legal. But the deeper I looked, the uglier it got. I spent sleepless nights digging through public records, county deeds, HOA meeting notes, and financial disclosures. And then I found it, the smoking gun. Not only were my signatures forged on several documents, but there were also falsified meeting minutes showing I'd approved deals I never even knew existed. Even worse, buried in HOA bank statements, I uncovered massive payments from a real estate development company directly to the HOA president and 2 board members. That's when it hit me, this wasn't incompetence, it was a multi-million-dollar conspiracy. And I wasn't about to let them win. I knew I couldn't confront them directly, not yet. If I stormed into another meeting screaming about fraud, they'd lawyer up instantly and bury me in paperwork. So instead, I went silent, and started planning. My first move was to hire a quiet but ruthless property attorney who specialized in HOA corruption cases. Together, we combed through every bylaw, every amendment, and every hidden clause they'd used against me. And that's when we discovered a legal loophole so perfectly buried, it was almost poetic. Years earlier, the HOA had drafted an emergency asset protection clause, giving them permission to use community funds to secure property in the event of a financial collapse. What they never noticed was that, by transferring my farmland into community property, they'd unknowingly put their own homes up as collateral for HOA-backed debts. My attorney confirmed it. If we proved fraud and forced the HOA into financial default, we could legally seize and liquidate every property tied to their membership. But to make it work, I needed evidence, ironclad proof the HOA had acted illegally. So, I went deep undercover. I requested HOA financial statements under state transparency laws, subpoenaed developer contracts, and tracked payment trails from offshore accounts back to the president himself. I even found emails where they discussed fast-tracking permits using falsified zoning reports. When I finally had the full picture, we filed a massive civil fraud lawsuit. The moment court proceedings began, their house of cards started collapsing. The developers pulled out, banks froze HOA funds, and members panicked as news spread. Within 6 months, the HOA declared bankruptcy. And just like that, thanks to their own shady paperwork, I became the legal trustee of their assets, including every home they lived in. But I wasn't done yet. I had one final move left, and it would send shockwaves through the entire community. When the court appointed me as the legal trustee of the HOA's assets, the board members thought they could still negotiate. They begged, threatened, and even tried to smear me publicly, but the law was finally on my side. For years, they had manipulated bylaws, forged signatures, and stolen what wasn't theirs. Now they were about to lose everything. The first step was freezing their personal stakes. Because the HOA had transferred my farmland into community property, every home inside the association had been legally tied to HOA debts. That meant each board member's house, the same homes they had used to intimidate me, was now considered an asset under my control. One by one, I ordered property appraisals and prepared them for auction. I'll never forget the day the notices went out. Certified letters landed on every board member's doorstep, stamped in bold, property seizure and sale. Within hours, my phone blew up with calls, shouting, crying, begging me to reconsider. But there was nothing to reconsider. These were the same people who forged my name, stole my land, and tried to ruin my family. Now, they were finally facing the consequences. The auction took place on a sunny Saturday morning. Crowds gathered, reporters showed up, and developers swarmed in with checkbooks ready. One by one, the homes were sold. Their mansions, their vacation properties, even the HOA president's own luxury estate. Watching the gavel hit the block each time felt like reclaiming a piece of my dignity, my freedom, and my land. By the end of the day, the very people who once thought they controlled me were homeless, stripped of power, and publicly exposed. My farmland was restored to me in full, but I had gained something far greater, justice. That I and the weeks after the auction, the entire community felt like a different place. The same HOA board that once ruled with intimidation and secrecy was gone, their homes sold, their reputations shattered. For the first time in years, I could walk across my 3,200 acres without fear, knowing it was finally, legally, and permanently mine again. But more than just regaining my land, I'd proven something bigger. No HOA, no board, no hidden bylaw is above the law. Still, the aftermath was complicated. Some neighbors quietly thanked me, saying they'd been living under the HOA's thumb for years but had been too scared to speak out. Others were angry, worried that losing the HOA would destroy property values. But when the truth came out, the forged signatures, the offshore payments, the illegal land grab, most realized who the real villains were. Justice had been served, and the evidence was undeniable. Looking back, I've learned something critical: never underestimate what people will do for power and money. These HOA board members thought they could manipulate the system, hide behind bureaucracy, and intimidate anyone who questioned them. But in the end, their own greed became the weapon that destroyed them. My attorney called it the most poetic HOA case he'd ever seen, and honestly, he was right. And while my battle is over, I know countless others are still fighting HOA nightmares just like mine. If there's one thing I want viewers to take away from this story, it's this. Always read the fine print, always know your rights, and never let intimidation silence you. If you've ever dealt with an HOA horror story or fought back against corruption, share your experience in the comments. And if you want more shocking real HOA cases like this one, make sure to subscribe, because trust me, this isn't the last time we'll expose the truth.